Did you know that a narrow waterway just 33 kilometers wide can impact the entire global economy? That waterway is called the Strait of Hormuz. It may look small on the map, but it carries nearly one-fifth of the world's oil supply. Whenever tensions rise in the Middle East, this name immediately returns to the headlines. So what exactly is the Strait of Hormuz? Why is it so important? What happens if it gets blocked? And how does it affect India? Let's understand it clearly and simply. What it is and where it is located. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow sea passage that connects the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea. On the northern side is Iran. On the southern side are Oman and the United Arab Emirates. At its narrowest point, it is only about 33 kilometers wide. But despite its size, it is one of the most strategically important waterways in the world. It acts as the main exit route for oil-producing countries in the Gulf region. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, and the UAE depend heavily on this route to export oil and natural gas to Asia, Europe, and other parts of the world. Why it is globally important? Here is the key fact. Around 20% of the world's total oil supply passes through this strait every single day. That means roughly 1 out of every 5 barrels of oil consumed globally travels through this narrow waterway. In addition to oil, a major portion of liquefied natural gas, especially from Qatar, also moves through this route. Now imagine if this passage is blocked even for a few days. Oil supply would immediately decrease. And when supply drops, prices rise very quickly. Higher oil prices affect fuel costs, transportation, electricity generation, food production, and overall inflation. That is why even small tensions in this area can shake global markets. Why it often appears in news. The Strait of Hormuz lies in a politically sensitive region. Iran controls the northern coastline of the strait. Over the years, Iran has warned that if it faces severe military action or heavy sanctions, it could disrupt traffic in this area. In the past, there have been incidents involving oil tanker seizures, drone attacks, naval tensions, and military drills. Even the threat of disruption is enough to push global oil prices upward. This shows how powerful this narrow waterway really is. What if it gets closed? Now let's talk about the big question. What happens if the Strait of Hormuz is closed? If it is completely blocked, global oil supply would fall sharply. Prices could spike within hours. Shipping insurance costs would increase. Stock markets could react negatively. And inflation could rise across multiple countries. All importing nations would struggle to secure alternative supply routes quickly. In short, it would create economic shockwaves worldwide. How it impacts on India. Now let's focus on India. India imports more than 80% of its crude oil needs. A large share of this oil comes from Gulf countries such as Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, and the UAE. Most of that oil travels through the Strait of Hormuz. So any disruption would directly affect India. Fuel prices could rise. Transportation costs would increase. Food and essential goods might become more expensive. The country's import bill would grow, which could weaken the Indian rupee. India does maintain strategic oil reserves for emergencies. But a long-term disruption would still create economic pressure. That is why India closely monitors developments in this region. Now finally, conclusion is, the Strait of Hormuz may be small in size, but its global importance is enormous. It carries nearly one-fifth of the world's oil. It influences global fuel prices, and it plays a critical role in India's energy security. That is why whenever tensions rise in the Middle East, the world watches this narrow waterway very closely. Because if the Strait of Hormuz is affected, the impact will be felt worldwide.